and he's going to be very productive. And one of the reasons why I am is because of Sean McVay. You got to understand how coaches like that think. When they're a play caller, they have a vision of how they're going to use a piece when it gets in their possession. That's Sean McVay. There's no way in my mind where I can fathom Sean McVay getting Davante Adams and he's not going to get him the ball and put him in advantageous situations. Like, you get a piece like that, he's always been a 8, 9, 10 target guy. Yeah. You can't allow him to then go to a 2, 3, 4 target guy. Now, you might ask him to do a little bit more. You might ask him to go and block an edge here and there. Is he going
to do that?
I think he's going to have to, because their offense is such where they want to be able to disguise things and have everybody kind of mix and match. You can't just have Puka being the only one, Puka Nacua being the only one doing those types of things. But Davante Adams, his level of production, his ability to stay healthy, he's been healthy the majority of his career. Like, he is going to always put up numbers. And if he's given an opportunity and a brain at the play calling position like Sean McVay, he's definitely going to thrive.
Yeah, look, I think the blocking and all that's going to be interesting to see how he does that. But he's the number 2, right?
So I don't look at it like that. I really don't, because there's some offenses where you would clearly say, yes, you're number 2. In an offense with Sean McVay and Puka Nacua, if they're both putting up numbers,
it's just going to be 1 and 1A.
Exactly. It's going to be, okay, right. Who has the matchup?
But that's my point. He's got another guy that whoever's the one, I don't know. I'm just saying, you got another guy that's going to draw a lot of attention, a guy that at times will draw that top corner, so it won't be on Davante. Yes. This is his best quarterback, obviously, since he left Rodgers a few years ago in Green Bay. So I do, and with everything you said about McVay, knowing how to use him and maximize him, I do expect Davante to have a big impact. And, Nick, I mean, I know you love the Rams. Like, they were close last year. Yeah. So now if Davante Adams does something. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
No.
They're the only team that gave the Eagles a game in the playoffs. It still feels like that the Chiefs would be the 3-time defending Super Bowl champs if they had one more play by the Rams. I think the Rams would have made the Super Bowl. And I know that maybe the Rams would have won. I think the Chiefs would beat the Rams. But regardless, like, my point is, I would have really liked the Rams against the Commanders with respect to the Commanders. And I'm not the first person to make this point, receiving cores that make sense, where the guys are different body types and different stylistically, and that is exactly what this is. It is a little awkward in this regard. Cooper Kupp, yes, he won the Triple Crown a few years ago and was Super Bowl MVP. He also was one of the best blocking receivers in the league, and it's one of the reasons, sadly, he broke down the way he did. Was that is a difficult way to play. And so you're not going to get that from Davante.
No.
You hope to just get some effort out on the edge blocking from him. But I really like what the Rams have done. The Rams went all those years without first-round picks and then hit on their late picks, and then once they had their first-round picks, seemed, in my opinion, to really hit on those. They rebuilt the defensive line. Aaron Donald walks away. The defensive line's fine by the end of the year. I was asked over the weekend who I thought had the best offseason. And my answer was the Rams, in large part because they avoided disaster by keeping Stafford. That was the biggest addition of the offseason, was them not losing Stafford. But I also like the other things that they've done. They kept their tackle Jackson, bringing in Davante for a good price. And I thought that Davante-Rodgers connection made me more bullish on Davante than it did Aaron. It looked to me like Davante was closer to vintage himself. Not the same, but, if he's 80% of what he once was, that's closer than what Aaron was. So I just like this a lot, and I'm also a big believer that we might look at that as the worst division in the league. Like, Arizona, I don't know that they have it together on the defensive side of the ball at all. We haven't seen Kyler play a full season of high-level football once, like we're all 17 games. Seattle, I think, got worse moving on from Geno. And the Rams, Niners, I don't think the Niners are going to be worse than last year, but I don't think they are all of a sudden going to be back to contender status. So I think they are really, really well positioned. I like them a lot.
Hollywood ranks offensively, Brew. 2022, that's what you like. 2023, a little bit less so. In 2024, they're 15th in points, 16th in total yards, and 23rd in yards per play. 2022, of course, first in everything. Do you think we're going to see the light show this year?
I'm hopeful. The receiving core, they don't have a tremendous receiver, but Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice, maybe he'll become something like that. I think last year he was off to a good start. I think he will have a big year. I think he takes a lot of Kelsey's underneath stuff.
Yes.
Slants and can go with it, get a lot of yards after the catch. And then Hollywood, so those are three really good receivers. Now, we haven't seen it from Mahomes in the last 2 years. I thought last year we were going to see the light show, and if Rashee doesn't get hurt, maybe we do. Hollywood obviously was out too, so he didn't have the receivers again. But I am hopeful that Mahomes will return to that. The question for me is the moves they made on the O-line, do those work out? Jalen Moore, he's never been a full-time starter. He's been great as a backup, but can he be a very good left tackle as a full-time starter? If so, and the receivers stay healthy, I would certainly bet on Mahomes to have a great year.
So
individually.
I think that I'm really glad you showed that graphic, Wildes, because I think there are two things that if they didn't happen, the conversation surrounding Mahomes and the Chiefs would be way different. One is an obvious one. If they didn't win the Super Bowl the year before last. You know what I mean? After struggling all year, whatever it was, then a lot of the conversation about this season and the numbers and all of it would be different. But because record was worse, everything was worse the year before, and they won the Super Bowl with one of the hardest passes in league history, and Mahomes played great in the playoffs, you know what I mean? We scratched it through. The other thing that is really important for Mahomes' stature as the unquestioned best quarterback in the league is that that 2022 first, the same year that he was the first player since Warner to win a regular season and Super Bowl MVP and set the all-time single-season total yardage record, that happened after Tyreek. If the line of demarcation was, here were his numbers, but it was first with Tyreek, that was with Juju was MVS, right? Sky Moore, and a better, younger Travis Kelce. But I wouldn't even call that apex Kelce. He was but it was still great Kelce. So 2023, I think it's very simple to chalk up to the drops, which Brew called week 1, game 1, essentially was going to be a problem. Last year is, to me, not complex at all. They had the most injured offense of any team in the league. They had, by week 4, they were without their top 2 running backs, their second, third, and fourth tight ends. They were without wide receiver 1, 2, 4, and 5, with the only wide receiver there was a rookie in Xavier Worthy. And they were on their second of what would be 4 left tackles. I don't think any of that is likely to repeat itself. And so I think that you are going to have stability from the left tackle position, even if it's not great play from the left tackle position. Rashee, I think is excellent. I think Rashee showed at the end of last year, or the end of 2 years ago, and the beginning of last year. Now, we have to see how he returns from the knee injury, but if he stays on that trajectory, and I thought Xavier Worthy only got better and better. So I think that, and I also think, and here's the last point, Greg, that because they didn't win the Super Bowl, they're going to feel like, man, winning all these close games, which I had no problem with and I thought was fine, that's maybe not a validation of that's a fine way to go about the season. You know, had they won the Super Bowl and they won 3 in a row, you can't argue with anything. But they didn't, and they got their asses kicked. So, yeah, I think KC will look much closer to the 2022 numbers than the 2024 numbers.
Yeah, I expect the return of the high-flying offense. I really do, because I think it's something that Patrick Mahomes wants. Right. I think it's something that they all were anticipating and expecting to put on display this year. And Rashee Rice, a huge part of that. If he comes back and he's healthy and he's anything of what we saw ending a couple years ago, Xavier Worthy obviously took another step. Hollywood Brown, we saw what he made the offense or assisted the offense to look like once he got back in the fold. They got all the makings. I don't care what Travis Kelce does or does not do. They're going to be a high-flying offense because of those speedsters, and with Patrick Mahomes having, if he gets any form of protection, he wants to push the ball down the field. And the fact that they're able to now play without the pressure of going back to back to back, look, man, we don't care. We don't care. We lost the Super Bowl. That is last year. It's almost like playing with house money now.
Right. And I wonder if it will lead to a less gaudy regular season record. Where it felt like last year was everything about last year felt like it was almost mechanical, waiting for the playoffs, grinding out these victories. And there wasn't, like, the most joyful moment of the regular season was the blocked field goal against Denver.
Yeah.
Because, you know what I mean, that was a game that, and I do think that the three-peat quest was weighing on them. They handled it better than any team ever has, literally, by getting back to the Super Bowl.
Especially with all those injuries that you mentioned.
But it didn't seem, it was the second straight year that it did seem like Patrick was, I don't know if frustrated is the right word, but tense. Tense is wrong because he wasn't nervous. But you understand what I mean? I should have had the word.
I don't know. The house money, I mean, I think they're going to come out with a chip on their shoulder, like with something to prove. Like, I mean, like you said, they got demolished in the Super Bowl. I think they're coming out like we're winning this Super Bowl.
Teams.
Yeah.
That's what I'd like to see.
I don't see house money, though. I don't see them just.
I don't.
Like,
when I say house money, it's more playing carefree. Offensively, not trying to be perfect, taking more chances, pushing, like how they ended that Super Bowl, pushing the ball down the field with Xavier. That's what I expect to see, because it was like, okay, the game is over, kind of like what we saw with the Jets. Once they were out of it, and Aaron Rodgers was so much better once they were completely out of the postseason, they just relaxed and then they played a little bit better.
You guys are the Aaron Rodgers Jets.
Let's not
a little bit.
compare the Chiefs to the Jets.
A little bit.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.